Mr. 313 Real Estate. Welcome to my IG channel. We're going to be talking about mentorship today, and that's something that's very, very important to me. I'm going to be talking about the three basic keys as to why you should be a mentor and why you need to be a mentor. So let's just jump right into it. We see this in the world of sports, music, business, just in all walks of life, maybe even in your religion or whatever faith that you have, if you have one. It may be somebody virtual, or it may be somebody that you personally know. So let's just kind of break this down in a sense. We see it like in the world of music. If you're into hip hop, we saw it in the 90s with Dr. Dre. Like Dr. Dre brought along Eminem, and then like Eminem brings in 50 Cent, and then 50 Cent brings in a G Unit, and then on you go. So we've seen this at several times. And I like Dr. Dre as a great example because before he had Eminem as his protege, he had Snoop. And these were two totally different people. You had a black man who grew up in the hood in Long Beach. Then you had a little scrawny white kid from the east side of Detroit, or Warren, whatever you want to call it. He comes from a totally different culture, totally different racial composition, but yet he's able to mentor both of these guys. And we also see it in the world of sports. We see it in coaching. Not all great coaches have assistants that move on to be other great coaches, but some do. We see it with Greg Popovich in basketball. A lot of his coaches move on to be successful. We see it in football with guys like Mike Holmgren, or guys like Andy Reid. A lot of their assistants have moved on to be head coaches, and now they're successful. And why is this important? Why is this? Why are we talking about this? Why are we talking about all these different people in these different situations? Well, we see a correlation of success. Successful people typically have mentors. In business, a guy like Jeff Bezos, he may not be the best mentor, but maybe he's great structurally. Okay, so maybe from a one-on-one standpoint, he may not be able to sit you down and just walk you through how to be successful in business, but you can learn off how Amazon has structured themselves and how they built themselves over the last 20 years. So he can be a mentor from a virtual standpoint. Some people, they can be mentors like a guy like Eric Thomas. It's very uplifting, very motivational. So if you lack motivation, if you lack self-discipline, a guy like Eric Thomas would be great, because now he can bring value and he can be that great motivation for you to kind of kickstart you to get where you need to go. So it all depends on what your weaknesses are. And that's the one thing that doesn't get talked about a lot when it comes to mentorship. It's weaknesses on both sides. It's with the student as well as the teacher. Okay, so you want to take my personal situations, like, growing up, my parents were my mentor. My dad was my mentor in a sense, teaching me work ethic and self-discipline, holding myself accountable. Then I had my mother. My mom was more so the mentor in personality traits and behavior, how to react to certain situations, being calm, not getting caught in the moment, knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to treat people, showing empathy and kindness. So I had two different types of mentors as parents. One was more so how to deal with this world, and you got to get out there and work, you got to be disciplined, you got to hold yourself accountable. Then this other one, my mom was more like the people person. She helped me learn how to deal with people in different types of personalities. Okay, so as you get older, once you become older, your parents, they can still be your mentors, but it's a lot of things that maybe that they can't help you with. Your mom, she may be able to help you in certain situations, but your mom can't help you fix your relationship. She may not be able to help fix a situation with your boss or one of your coworkers. Your dad might not be able to help you in a business sense, but because in my situation, my dad, he grew up in a very different time where business was a lot more simpler. You didn't have the technology. So he doesn't really have the tech savviness that I would need in 2018. I can't have an SEO, KPI, CRM type of conversation with my dad on how to scale my business. All he knows is supply and demand, which is very great core principle. But when you start getting into the logistics of today's business, he would not be the ideal mentor for me in that sense. Okay, so it's not about dismissing certain mentors, but you got to find what your weaknesses are and you have to seek those out. So with me, it was always financial literacy. I mean, I was always open to learning it. There was a lot of things I didn't know about credit. There's a lot of things I didn't know about financing and real estate. And I sought out a guy like Jay Morrison, and I started watching him on YouTube, learning things about real estate, and that really piqued my interest because it was somebody I could relate to, a young black man like myself, talking about something that I was very interested in. Then I was introduced to all the other people that he was associated with and people that was on his team. And Will Roundtree really stuck out to me because of his style of mentorship. He wasn't coming with a lot of pizzazz and huge personality and talking loud. Any of you know Will's very kind of monotone, just very cool, laid back, and he's just meat and potatoes. So when he's teaching me about credit and financing and the importance of leveraging your credit, it was just very slow and steady, but it was very consistent. So I was starting to understand these things over and over again until it was just pounded into my head. But it wasn't like a lot of pizzazz and a lot of flair with it. And that was great for me because I kind of had that from Jay. Jay was more of the big personality, the charisma guy, and Will was more on the other end of the spectrum, more laid back, meat and potatoes. He's gonna give you the bread and butter, like the nuts and bolts of what you need to do. And so that helped me tremendously. And then I did the right thing by taking the information, and now that I've learned it, now I'm applying it in my life. Now I'm going to take that on to others. And that's the key. The key to mentorship is exposing your weaknesses. And I think that's why a lot of times people don't like to be mentors, because you may be getting exposed. Maybe you can't answer questions that someone may ask you. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's a good thing because now you're starting to learn more. Now you're going to have to expand your horizons. And it's always a good indicator of where you at as a mentor. If you're seeing that the people that you're talking to, the people that you're putting on, if you see them succeeding, if you see them able to convey your message and convey your principles, then you know that you're pretty good at this mentoring thing. You know what your strengths are. You know now that the style that you're using is actually working. Okay, but if you start to see like, man, I'm mentoring people, but none of them are being successful. None of them can catch on what they're saying. Don't get caught up in your ego and saying, well, it's them. Well, perhaps it's you. So it makes you strengthen yourself and see where you're at, even as the person being the mentor. So it's not just the student that's learning, it's the teacher that's learning as well. Okay, but on the flip side of that, once you get information, once you get empowered, once you start taking action, you don't want to get high on your own supply. As my man Biggie said, you don't want to start feeling yourself too much, thinking that you know everything now that you're good. Okay, because the world is changing. The world changes probably now in a micro sense, like in cycles. I would say 6 to 8 month cycles. I mean, just going back to the beginning of the year, what was everybody talking about? Cryptocurrency. Just January 2018, cryptocurrency was like the hottest thing on the planet. I mean, people were going bonkers. I mean, it went up to like 17.5. Everybody was talking about it. Now it's taking an 80% dip. Now nobody's talking about cryptocurrency now. Okay, so now you've seen 8 months later how much has changed. But in a macro, I would say waves now are going from a 3 to 5 year scale. And I'm starting to see this. When I first really started paying attention to social media in a business sense and not really for the entertainment, a lot of people that I was seeing on social media talking about credit or real estate or different type of businesses or that was just on the scene in a sense, maybe 2014, 2015, they're not as relevant then as they are now. Other people that have come into the marketplace, have come into the fray, and have taken their place. And why is that? Simply because they didn't continue to have mentorship themselves. Okay, so I know that I have the right mentors because my mentors got mentors. So, case in point, the guy like Will Roundtree, who I consider as a mentor, he has a mentor as well. So that means he's continuing to improve himself. He's continuing to grow as a person, and then that's helping me even more. So I don't ever cap myself out with his information or his expertise because he's always adding to himself, and that makes me add to myself as well. You know, if that makes sense. So you see people, they're a certain way for years, and then 3 to 5 years, you don't see them anymore. So in a sense of business, you want to keep in mind that just because you're successful now in one thing doesn't mean it's going to be that way. You know, let's just take wholesaling, for instance, or something I've gotten into this year. You know, wholesaling's been around for, I would, in a popular sense, you know, it was first just kind of short sales, but it's kind of like, you know, evolved into wholesaling. Direct mail was the thing. You know, direct mail was like the lifeblood when I first was introduced to wholesaling of it. That is something that you had to do. But now we're seeing with technology, and in the next 3 to 5 years, I don't think it's going to be too many people doing direct mail. Now, there's still people, they are like hell bent on doing direct mail. They'll send 15, 20,000 mail pieces a month out as their campaign. And I'm not saying it's not going to work, but it's not maybe the most cost effective. Now there's starting to be more cost effective ways like, you know, ringless voicemail and cold calling. And now they have a certain type of Bluetooth apps where you can reach out to people and text message them. It's starting to be new ways that you can use technology to reach out to people and prospect, not only in wholesaling, but just all types of sales. I mean, I get text messages all the time about offers for financing. I get voicemail drops on my cell phone. I mean, I'm getting pop-ups on certain apps. So now it's not just direct mail anymore. But if you're successful at direct mail, if you don't seek out a mentor who knows about how to market on Facebook, market on Instagram, you know, the key performance indicators, using ringless voicemail, using this new technology, yes, you may be successful now, but where are you going to be 18 to 24 months from now? You know, are you going to still be relevant? And so that's a question we have to continue to ask ourselves. Even if you're not in business, even if you're just living your regular life, you know, the dynamic of relationships have changed. You know, back in the 70s and 80s, it was more so the husband and in the house, you know, the wife was kind of like the domestic, you know, person. They stayed at home. Now we're seeing it's a totally different dynamic. It's some cases where the man's staying at home, the woman's working, whatever the case may be. They're both working full time. You know, both husband and wife are now entrepreneurs. The wife has a brand, the husband has a brand, or they may have a brand together. I mean, we're just seeing totally different dynamics. I mean, we're seeing dynamics in child rearing. There was a time where I grew up where you couldn't watch television. You know, television was bad. Information on television was a bad thing. I only watched TV for a certain amount of time. You know, you couldn't be on the phone. I remember when cell phones first started to come out, it was like, oh man, well, you're on your phone too much. Now it's like you have to be on your phone. In the year 2018, we're going into 19, cell phone use is just going to get more and more. Okay, it was maybe on thought of your child having their own cell phone, because of the dangers of it, them being exposed to what's going on online and all these other things. Now it's necessary. Now everybody has to have a cell phone. You have to be able to keep in touch with everyone. So to just wrap this thing up, mentorship is about weaknesses. That's really what it's about. We all have weaknesses. Now, if you think you don't have weaknesses, you're just going to become irrelevant. It's just that simple. And that's just in all walks of life. But in this sense, we're just really just talking about business. And in the business and what I'm doing and the things that I'm seeing of having the importance of content, the importance of using technology, the importance of using Facebook ads, Instagram, like that's the way to go. The people that are thinking that they don't need to learn these things, that they can just keep doing things the way they've been doing it the last 5 years, those people will not be relevant in the next 3 years. Trust and believe me, they will not, because all the things that they're using will be outdated. Okay, how can you in the year 2021 give a wholesale seminar and you're still talking about direct mail? It's just going to be ridiculous. I mean, it just won't exist. I mean, who knows what's going to happen to the post office in the next 10 years? We may not even have a post office. I mean, when was the last time you really came home and you just had a stack of mail and you just sat there and just looked through it? So that's just one example. So we just have to really just be mindful of where we're at in the process of what we're doing. And I'm going to do another video on the whole process of getting a mentor. How do you have that type of conversation? How do you get yourself into that position to to mentor somebody and leverage that relationship, and really what it means? Does it mean that you're just the one that's just benefiting, like you're just waiting for this person to take out all their time and energy to just give you information? And what really does it mean to be a true mentee? And I'm going to do one couple with that on what it takes to be a great mentor, and what exactly does that mean, and how was the proper way to empower people and to motivate people, and not letting our ego and our own selfish and our own mindsets get in the way of what somebody else is trying to do, but at the same time giving them value. So I just want to get your comments on this. Give me a message on what you thought about the content, if you agree, if you disagree, or maybe something you thought I missed that you want to add, I can put in the next video. I'm open to that. This is really the purpose of me doing this channel, is just to have open discussion, just have open dialogue about things that we are doing in the business world and things that are necessary. So I hope you enjoy, and looking forward to you watching the next one. Thank you.